Okay, so before I can mix a glaze and apply it to my piece of pottery, there's a few things that have to happen. You have to make sure that the pottery is nice and clean beforehand. If it feels really dusty, you might have to take it to the sink and wash it off. If you get any dust on here, the glaze is not going to adhere to it properly. So when it is clean and ready, we have to make sure that we don't get glaze on the bottom area where it's going to be in contact with the shelf inside the kiln. If there's glaze down here or too close to the bottom, in this area right here or in here, when we fire it, the glaze fuses to everything that it's touching. So again, if there's glaze on the bottom of this thing, it's going to fuse to the kiln shelf, and then it's going to break when you're trying to take it out. The glaze also becomes molten during the firing. It melts. It becomes kind of like the consistency of warm honey. So if you overglaze, and a lot of times beginners do overglaze, purely just out of inexperience, the glaze will move. So if you've glazed too close to the bottom and your glaze moves, it'll actually slide down the side of your pot and come in contact with the kiln shelf. Same problem, it fuses to the kiln shelf. And then in order to get that off the kiln shelf, you're gonna end up breaking the pot. So what we have to do is we have to use a material called wax resist. We put wax on the areas where we don't want the glaze. The wax prevents the pot from absorbing glaze into the surface on those areas. And then after we're done glazing, we just take a little sponge and we clean off the excess glaze off of those areas that we waxed. So to do this, what I'm gonna do is I have my wax, I have a paintbrush. I'm going to very carefully just wax this whole area. Wax the inside of the foot. And I typically wax the whole bottom. Some people don't. I don't know. I just don't see a point in glazing the bottom of your pots. Some people like to have glaze as much glaze coverage as they possibly can on every part of their pots. It's not a part of my philosophy to do that, so I don't worry about it too much. I do try to get a nice straight line here. Now this wax is tricky to work with. It dries really fast. It washes off of everything except for the bisqueware. When the wax gets on there, it's like super glue. It's not coming off. The only way to get that wax off of there is to re-bisque fire your pot and burn the wax off. And it has to be temperatures of a firing where we're talking in excess of 500 degrees at least before that wax starts to fully burn away. So if you get it on your clothes, you get it on your hands, before you touch your pottery, make sure your hands are clean. If you get it on your clothes, it'll wash off, wash out when you wash your clothes. If it drips all over your pot where you don't want it, the best thing to do is to put it back into the kiln room and have it re-bisque fired so that you don't have a pot with weird glazing when you're done, okay? Okay, so I am going to do some glazing now. So I have to mix this glaze up before I can use it. So over here, there is a drill with a mixer on it, and that's what we're going to use. So we have to make sure that this is clean before we use it. So if it's dirty at all, what we can do is use this hose right here, and you just spray it off. It has to be clean before you can use it. So then, what we're gonna do is find this thing. It's usually laying right there for everybody to find. And that is gonna go on top of the bucket of glaze that we're gonna use. That will prevent any splashes, hopefully. And then we're gonna take the mixer. Mixer goes through that opening. And then when we start mixing, what we're trying to do is get all that water and all that glaze thoroughly mixed together. So this could take a few minutes.